Hey guys, what's going on? So today I have an album review for Deprecated with Deriding His Creation. So if you're not too familiar with Deprecated, they were a brutal death metal band from California from the late 90s. This is the only thing that they ever put out besides a re-recording of this EP, which I don't think is very good. We'll get into that. But anyways, this is the only release they ever put out, 4 songs. And in my opinion, it's one of the best brutal death metal EPs of all time, arguably the best EP in the entire genre. Really an anomaly of a band. It's the only thing they ever put out, of course, and a lot of the members of this band either were in prior to this or ended up being in the future, like bigger bands, like AJ McGowan, of course, was famously in Disgorge and Defeated Sanity on vocals. Derek Boyer ended up being in Decrepit Birth, and he was also Suffocation, of course. John Remen on guitar, I believe he played in Disgorge prior to this EP. I think he played on Cranial Impalement and the 95 demo. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm not sure about Greg Laff or Tori Moores. But yeah, stellar fucking lineup, of course. Anyways, this is a 2021 reissue put out through New Standard Elite, which I think was really cool of them to put this out because, like I mentioned earlier, there's a re-recording of this that came out in 2013 that's really overproduced sounding and I think sucks a lot of the life out of these songs. But this original raw, really dirty sounding recording is where it's at. It was originally put out through Lit Music in 1998. But New Standard Elite, what they did basically was they just released it with the same layout. Things are slightly different. I think there's like on the original version, I think there's like some like wheat plants around them or something, but they got rid of that. The logo is also rendered slightly differently. It's the same like design of the logo, but like the little like CG details are slightly different. I'll show what the original looks like right here. But nonetheless, I mean, that's just a nitpicky little thing. This layout, they fucking killed it with. So yeah, there's the front. I really like the simplicity of the album cover for this, honestly. Just one of the sickest logos ever. It's got a really like chloroform sort of look to its shape I really like. And just the simple Deriding His Creation. There's the spine, and then got that spine text. That's one of the things I really love about brutal death metal CDs in general is the text on the side on a lot of the CDs, but there's a cool picture of the band, and then you got the track listing. You've got Deriding His Creation, Mentally Deprived, Realization of Betrayal, and my favorite song on here, Induced Deception. So 4 songs, all fucking amazing songs. There's the disc. Got thank yous behind. I really like the shape of like how they're like fitted around like the circle. I think that's really cool. The booklet's pretty simple. It's just lyrics. They've got some really like anti-religious sort of lyrics, similar to like Consume the Forsaken era Disgorge, that sort of deal. Really cool shit. Very like cryptic sounding, but really like brooding and like hateful, cool shit. So anyways, Deprecated style of brutal death metal. It is like the traditional like California style, like Disgorge and Deeds of Flesh, where it's very technical, very Suffocation inspired, like maze-like sort of song structures where almost nothing repeats. But what Deprecated does differently with that style is they kind of slow things down. So these songs are a lot slower, and they're just as technical, but being that they're slower, it gives you more time to really process everything. And it gives it this very angular sort of feel. With a band like Disgorge or Deeds of Flesh, the songs are just as angular and technical, but they whiz by so fast that you don't really get the chance to analyze every little detail like in the moment, whereas on this, because it's a little slower, just as blasty, but the blasts aren't quite like the BPM isn't as high. Gives you like the chance to really suck everything in. I would say these guys are also pretty comparable to Pyrexia, honestly. A lot of their chugs have that similar like mechanical sort of groove to them where they're bouncy, but they're not really hip hoppy. They're just really like mechanical and like have this sort of sensation that you would imagine like gears grinding together, like that sort of like everything fits in together really well, but grooves really smooth, but it's like a mechanical sort of deal. I don't know how to explain it. One of my favorite parts of this album is honestly the bass. Derek Boyer's bass tone on here is, in my opinion, some of the best in all of brutal death metal, honestly. It's really clanky and mid-heavy, but it's just got this nice punch to it that syncs up really well with the drum sound, which is also another one of my favorite parts of this album. The drum sound on here is very, like the snare sounds very like mechanical sort of, and same with all the cymbals, but the kicks They're really like pitter-pattery, super bassy and like dirty sounding. The drums have a very mechanical sort of feel to them. I'm not saying that the drummer doesn't play with any feel, but it's like ultra tight, and the songs are technical but slower. So, and it gives it this sort of mechanical, robotic sort of feel, but with like raw production. I don't really know how else to explain it. It's not like robotic in the way that it feels lifeless. It's just really tight and angular, but with raw production, like I mentioned. The guitar tone is probably one of the weaker things about this album. The guitars are really washed out sounding, they don't get buried in the mix, but the riffs aren't as easy to make out as they are on the bass. On like the guitar tone, it's very like muddy sounding, which the production on here overall is pretty muddy sounding, but I like it though. It makes it feel dirty. But yeah, the guitar tone's a little weaker. It's very sharp sounding. It's a little more rough on the ears, but I don't mind it though. It works for this, of course, but it's not like a guitar tone I would like freak out over. But the guitar tone is probably the weakest part of the production. And then AJ Magana's vocals are fantastic on here. They're a lot more simple on here than they are on when he eventually joined Discord a few years later. He almost sounds like a completely different vocalist on here. He takes a lot more simple of an approach. He doesn't do a lot of crazy shrieks and noises and like ultra low vocals. They're a little more like mid to low range. He does make more like guttural noises here and there, but they don't go outside of the range in which he does his main vocals. But overall, his vocals are very strong on here though, very menacing sounding, really like the way he like announces some of the lyrics, like in the title track DERIDING's Creation, when he's like, with undying hatred I will crush you, and the way he does it, it's like really like, feels really like powerful and like fucking like tough. It's so sick. But yeah, I'd say my favorite song here is Induced Deception. Something really cool that Deprecated does with like a lot of the blasts is because they're slower. They add in little extra like triplets and stuff into it. Like the intro riff on Induced Deception, it goes like dun 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 dun, and it's like a slow blast, but that little like dun 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 like kind of triplet in it really like adds this mechanical sort of feel that I really do enjoy. Mentally Deprived is probably like the grooviest song on here. That one sounds a lot like Pyrexia. It's got those really like chuggy sort of things going on. Like it's not like slammy necessarily, but there's like slow chugs that remind me a lot of Pyrexia and some of the other New York bands. Not quite like Internal Bleeding, like hip hoppy sort of chugs, but they've got that sort of like catchy sort of chuggy thing going on. The title track, DERIDING's Creation, is another one of the best songs on here. Probably the sickest vocals in that one. A lot of really good riffs in there too. It's paced very well. Realization of Betrayal is probably my least favorite song on here. It's still a very good song, but I feel like it's not quite as memorable as the rest of them. But there's some interesting work with the drums going on in that song. And there's a lot of bass breaks too. Speaking of bass breaks, there's one part on Induced Deception where there's like a bass and drum break at the same time, and it sounds really sick. There's also a really cool part on Induced Deception that I love where there's like a vocal break, and then it goes like straight back into the riff, and it just sounds really fucking violent. Yeah, overall, all four of these songs are very strong, very well crafted, and a lot of the musicians in this band went on to do bigger things, and I think this is sort of a legendary sort of release for a reason, because like these guys went on to do bigger things, but it all really started here, and this EP is honestly pretty much flawless, other than the production being raw, the guitar tone being kind of shitty, but it doesn't do any sort of bad to the actual songs. Overall, I think I would give DERIDING's Creation a 9.5 out of 10. My only complaint really is if you turn it up really loud, like because the guitar tone is so sharp and like piercing, it kind of hurts your ears a little bit. Other than that, really punchy sounding. No, overall, I love the production on here. I love the way the bass tone kind of clicks really well with the way the kicks on the drum sound. They really sync up very well, and it's very punchy sounding. So overall, I would give DERIDING's Creation a 9.5 out of 10. In my opinion, this is an essential release if you want to listen to if you're into brutal death metal, you need to know this, and if you're not, if you're getting into brutal death metal, it's definitely something you should listen to. Really glad New Standard reissued this album, or EP. But yeah, please go listen to this if you haven't. So yeah, Deprecated with DERIDING's Creation, amazing EP. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.